Manila Chan joins the Warriors. She is an international news anchor and founder of Slanted Media. Manila also describes herself as a concerned parent. Please follow Manila Chan. Lots of different places, slantedonline.com, also on Rumble, the Manila channel, also at Manila Chan on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it today, Manila. And I'm going to add something before I let you speak, and that is I consider you a dear friend, a trusted colleague, and I put that in
Likewise.
capital and I put that Manila in capital letters, consummate journalist. And it is an honor to know you and share your voice and expertise and let everybody hear you today. So, Manila, happy holidays. Let's jump right in. Welcome to the Warriors.
Hello, Lynn, and I express all the same feelings and sentiment about you and your family. You are family. You are welcome at my home anytime you're in Washington, D.C.
I'll be coming back soon. We'll talk about that. Because when I was there a few weeks ago, it was very cold and unfriendly.
It
So I
was.
want to go to a warm, lovely, friendly spot. I'll leave it at that. Now, let's just start with first. Give us a little bit about Manila Chan. What are you about? What's your vibe? What's your ride? What's your give us some you know, M Chan background.
Okay, well, first, being the first American born in my family in
Mhm.
Los Angeles, California, um, I think that was a big deal being the first American, right? And I'm representative of all the hopes and dreams of generations and my ancestors and all of that. So, not a tall order to put on a kid, right? So, so I had to grow up and do something. And, like most Asian parents, I had a little bit of a strict upbringing and the pressures of you got to be a doctor, you got to be a lawyer, you maybe a businesswoman, import export, maybe. And I said, no, I don't like that. I'm I like learning and getting paid for it and telling other people what I've learned and what I've discovered. And then I realized there was this industry called journalism. Now, albeit I think a lot of that industry has gone by the wayside in the past
Yeah.
20 years. It's kind of a despicable landscape and pathetic at this stage of where we're at. But that was the path I chose for myself, and it makes me happy. I'm fulfilled and only second to my own family in terms of fulfillment and my little guy, as I've learned. But still learning that. We'll see. We'll see when my son hits the teenage years. But I think that's kind of who I am in a nutshell. I think I was a little bit more too intense, maybe for the West Coast, for Los Angeles, because people are more easygoing. I'm not saying I'm not easygoing, but I was always my brain was always ticking, and I always wanted to learn and see what's happening over there, what's happening in the Middle East.
Right.
Well, what's happening in uh, South Central Los Angeles? Well, that was an important issue when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. What's happening in South Central? The drugs, the crack epidemic, the teen pregnancy. I wanted to know everything. And lo and behold, I made a career out of learning a little bit about everything and telling everybody else what I've learned. So, I found myself on the East Coast. I think where people are take an active interest in the world and the surroundings. So I think I found a little bit better of a fit for myself out here.
I think so. I also, as you're talking, let me ask you something. I don't remember when it was, but here in New York City, it became a big thing, actually, like a national movement. Remember? So you're a lot younger than I am, but all of a sudden, Manila, I don't know. It was the 80s, the 90s, this whole thing like Tiger Moms, like was
Hmm.
sweeping the country. I
Hmm.
really don't remember. I would have to look
Amy
it up.
Chua, that
And
book.
no, but it was like everybody, let me tell you something. So I just because I'm curious now, I just thought of this. Like, I want your thoughts on that. But you know what? That's exactly what's needed. Fast forward to almost 2024, like being on top of everything
Uh-huh.
appropriately with your children, like what's going on, invest it in, their education. What are your thoughts about that whole kind of like tiger mom? I don't know. You're kind of a little bit of a tiger mom, or are you
Yeah.
just that concerned parent that everybody should be?
Well, I think so. Amy Chua, who made that term famous or popular, but again, this isn't. It comes from kind of the Asian parent, old school Asian, the motherland way of raising kids, where the parents do know what the kids are doing. They specifically choose activities and curate what the kids do with their spare time. And can you go overboard and over curate and the kids have no time to be kids? Of course, you can do that. Or you could be at the opposite end where, as we saw across America in the 70s and 80s, a lot of latchkey kids where you had no idea what the kids were doing and just come home when the street lights are on. Somewhere, I think in today's modern age, I think there's a way a parent and specifically if I could speak for other Asian Americans like myself that were born here to immigrant parents who were strict, right? So we kind of got a taste of both worlds. And I think we have the benefit of having grown up dual culture where we saw that very strict Asian parenting, the demands and the expectations and the pressure. And that was awful. That was awful for me. Meanwhile, I would see a lot of other friends that had a lot more freedom to wear what they wanted, do what they wanted, act how they wanted, color their hair when, you know. And I think having grown up in that dual culture myself, I've been able to learn to strike the balance.
Mhm.
And that's where I think modern day tiger mom or concerned parenting, if they don't like the term, if they think it's a negative connotation. But I would rather own it and say that there's a twist to the modern tiger mom is that you have to be vigilant. You
Mhm.
have to, because it's not, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker creeping through your town that you have to worry about. The Night Stalker is now in the palm of your hand.
Right.
It's on every iPad. All these things modern day parents have to worry about that my parents didn't have to worry about in the 80s. So slightly different. So I think you have to be a little more involved in today's era, simply because the world exists in a virtual world now. It's less about, making sure your kid isn't scooped up, although that does happen, of course, on the street. But it's more likely that your kid is going to be persuaded by somebody, something, groomed online. School is online. I mean, we've habituated our children, right, during COVID to be always on the iPad, on the computer, on the phone. Um, so I think that's kind of where I'm at, trying to navigate, with a very young son. He hasn't even entered primary school yet, but we want to keep him not only involved in physical activities that are monitored, um, but also when he's online, because that's where they live and they learn things. And they don't, gone are the days of the old college ruled paper, right?
Yeah.
They're all on the iPad. They learn to write and type on the iPad now. So I think parents need to learn to strike that fine line between not over parenting, helicopter parenting, giving them a little bit of freedom, but do it age appropriate, like with my little guy, to make sure that they aren't getting lured into, today's modern era night stalker, I guess, if you will. So I think that's kind of where we're at. And I think a lot of parents, and I know a lot of people have a lot more parenting experience than me, but I think having been a reporter for the better part of 20 years and having seen so much, and the benefit of growing up dual culture, I think I've kind of figured out a nice little balance somewhere in that overlap between all three. So I hope all parents can kind of look into that and say, okay, you don't want to be overbearing. I mean, you're a successful mom with successful children. Um, you got to give them a little freedom, but in today's era, you got to also be vigilant. And that's the key word. And I know you use that word a lot with the Warriors because vigilance is the only way today, right? Vigilance is not helicopter parenting.
Right.
It's
Right.
different.
I think, you very well said what you said. We live in a digital world. It's not going away. So we have to leverage the internet for good. This is what
Mhm.
I preach. What you're doing, what you just said. And again, starting young because
Yep.
kids are starting right out of the womb practically,
Yes.
and the other thing is, there is parental autonomy. So I can't tell another parent like, don't buy that child a phone. That's up to the parent, or don't put them on that, laptop. But we just want to instill raising awareness, like be safe, know what's going on. Like really the education piece. I know it sounds boring, but it's like I think what everything you mentioned, what I'm talking about, it's the number one thing for parents today. And see, my kids are all in their 30s now. So it's like they just missed this whole bubble, because I like to say it's kind of like the 30 and under crowd,
Yeah.
born in the internet kind of bubble, the online
Yes.
bubble. And I think it's the number one thing. I am surprised though, Manila, I get so much pushback because I do this 24/7, as you
I know.
know, just education and going around and talking. And the parents and caregivers will say to me, teachers, even healthcare professionals, that doesn't happen. That's not going on. That's the key, Manila. Maybe you could just shed some light. Like, why, instead of saying, oh, I didn't know that, let me learn more.
Wow.
Like, because I'm always like, oh, I didn't know that, let me learn more.
Right. Me
Like,
too.
that's where I come from, but they'll push back. Not a lot of people will. And then, of course, then there's a lot of people who want to know more. They just aren't even aware these things are happening. How can we've been with the internet now since 1996, basically. Oh, I have a lot to say with you, but look, we're just ending I'm jumping all over, so bear with me a second. We're just ending our 118th, the congressional, oh
Session.
geez, session right now, going into it soon. And so we've had, Manila, the same-sex child safety, bipartisan, by the way, okay? Belongs to no political parties, all of this safety talk, real
Mhm.
time, online. Again, Chuck Schumer, right here in my home state of New York, will not bring it, Senate majority leader will not bring these. They've gone all the way up the chain, will not bring them for a final vote. And for the life of me, it's Republicans, it's Democrats, they just don't want to address this as we continue chipping away on all of this, but nothing from nothing.
Well,
So, January will start. We'll have to kind of start all over again with all of this. I don't get it.
I've got some thoughts about that as far as Congress goes, because I for a good couple of years in my career, I was an accredited Capitol Hill reporter, as you know, and I was based there on the Hill, and I've talked to a lot of these people. So I think their very PC answer as to why um, Chuck Schumer hasn't brought this to the floor for a full vote, or maybe not even out of committee, I would imagine, because one, they're going to say they have other priorities.
Yeah,
Priorities like funding war and death and destruction,
exactly.
things like that, rather than protecting our own children in our own homes, right? That's not a priority for them. Their priority is always funding the big money at the military industrial complex. So they're going to say, this is, of course, important. It's a priority for us, but we've got, this fire going on in Gaza. We've got this fire in Taiwan. We've got, so that's how they'll always address that. But it's my opinion, and I suspect that the reason it hasn't actually come out of committee onto the actual floor for a vote is because they need to keep kicking this around until they find an avenue where they can make money from it, where their friends can make money from it. You
Yeah.
see, it doesn't bring people much money to not human traffic, sadly to say. It's sad to say, but it's true. Human trafficking, as you very well know, is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry around the world. Um, and I think if Congress were to step in, now you're stepping on the toes of a lot of
Yes.
people that are, be it drug kingpins that are often involved in stuff like this, the cartels in Mexico, and all around the world, the secret brothels all around the world, and it gets really messy all the way down to the local level. So I believe because it would impact a lot of local businesses, you need to show them what's in it for them in
Exactly.
Congress. So you got to show them how saving kids and human trafficking will, I don't know, saving lives is going to make money for them, because that's the only thing that speaks, I think. Money talks on Capitol Hill, but they'll
You
never say it that way.
you no. And everything you just said, I am agreeing with 1,000,000%, because people will say, "Why is this going on?" Everybody knows, horrible. I'll say,
Of
"'Cause
course.
there's a lot of money to be made." That is the bottom line. Follow the money. I don't even like that saying, but that is the truth, Manila. Follow the money. And also, we have to always throw in, big tech is very powerful in Washington. Those
Yes.
lobbyists and all that. And I am convinced, again, in my opinion, when a lot of these, people leave Congress, they want to go work on the boards of big tech, or they want to go work on the boards of the
They do.
banks. So they're not rocking the boat to do
No.
anything. And so it is very discouraging, because as you and me are sitting here, things are just escalating online. And right now, something, Manila, we're not talking enough about. People can't wrap their heads around this issue, just the internet, safety, watch the kids a little bit, talk to your kids. This AI, this artificial intelligence, or artificial
Creepy.
general intelligence. No, but that is going to just sweep every kind of business. So what kind of thoughts do you have on that?
Oh, before I move on to that, one thing I want to point out, because you brought up how the tech sector basically controls both sides of the aisle on
Yeah.
Capitol Hill. It's very true. Um, Another thing that people don't actually think about, and I've actually reported on this myself in my career, is that in wartime economy, like let's take Ukraine for as an example. Even prior to the war, you you know what the main source of income, main job was for young women under 30 in Ukraine?
Well, I think I know. I'm gonna
Audience?
well, no, wait a minute. One of the things, and this was way before this whole thing broke out with Ukraine, I used to talk about all this surrogacy.
Yes, that's true too. But the main source of income, even prior to the war, and even more so now because women are desperate, is kind of pornography sites like OnlyFans and things like that, and other, I don't even know the names of these sites, but that's the exploitation of these women to get into these networks. So again, it's profitable on two sides here for the military industrial complex,
Right.
and why Congress seems to support war despite them saying oh, we want peace, but they seem to support more money for war. And the more you devastate an economy, the fewer opportunities you create for young women. And when young women are in desperate times, well, guess what? They can use the internet and they can make a little bit of money to feed themselves, their family, and it's all done through, and I'm only using OnlyFans only because that's the only name I I know. It's not a world I explore too much, but that's how they make money. Now, sad to say, with the advent of AI and the booming growth and popularity of AI, um, there's a new interest in porn that is based on this amalgamation of like 100 different women's faces, let's say, right?
Right.
Let's say, you tell ChatGPT to create you um the most tell me, show me what the most beautiful Ukrainian woman would look like. And the AI will scan thousands of pictures across the internet where it's geo-targeted, geo-tagged in Ukraine. And they're going to say, these big blue,
Mm.
it'll create a picture that's a gajillion pixels of a little bit of 1,000 women, let's say, on the internet, and create what it thinks the most beautiful Ukrainian woman would look like. It'll and I've actually seen an article about this, about
Mhm.
um the writer asked ChatGPT to show him uh the most beautiful women from all the countries in the world. And ChatGPT I mean, it's hard to distinguish whether or not these are an actual woman that I'm looking at, or at this point it's getting so good. But this is kind of like this new method of pornography. If you, I mean, you
I
can.
call it a new method of human trafficking, but that's kind of what I call it. And I did see an article what you're referring to about them, the beautiful women. They had one from the United States. If it's the same thing I was reading
Like what
recently,
she would look like, what
right,
she would look like,
from these
right?
different countries.
Malaysia or Kenya or
But here's
whatever.
the thing, Manila, I'm so concerned about. It's more of the like habituation, normalization of this porn, which
Mhm,
is so available, like for the kids. They're not even
mhm.
looking for it. It comes through on the algorithms. Okay. If they're doing some searches.
That's not by accident.
And of course not. I'm not going to bore you with all the studies we're fighting. I mean, Meta, which I still call Facebook and Instagram,
It is.
is called in front of Congress in January because we do have all the studies that say, and the whistleblowers now, oh, they knew all this was going on with child predation and taking kids' informations and the algorithms directing. But Manila, we've seen this over and over again. On Capitol Hill, they have these hearings. We have the whistleblowers. There's a lot of noise. Yeah, media cover it. Then it goes away.
Mhm.
I'm still waiting. We had the big thing with the whistleblower, Frances Haugen, 2 years ago. It
Mhm.
was just 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, with the Facebook, and there was a big splash. And she posted fairly recently. That was 2 years ago.
Wow.
Nothing has changed. She posted. Okay. So it's like we do all this and then nothing comes out of it. I think that is the most disappointing thing. But again, it's tied, a lot of complicit people, a lot of money being made. Also, across not only the United States, these are international networks. But I
Yes.
want to go back to Ukraine for a minute because I was talking about it here in New York City. The Warriors were aligned with other groups and organizations where we have, monthly meetings or things like that. And I was talking a few years ago, um, again, backed by studies and sources, this surrogacy, which other groups agreed to before people even knew about Ukraine, because I'm
Right.
still convinced, Manila, they can't find it on the map.
I
The
agree.
majority no, I mean, I use that, and I've heard that phrase before, but people don't know, they and if I'm being a little judgy, I don't really care because I think we live now like, you have to know things, or if you
Yes.
don't know them, you have to research them, you have to find out. Again, we have the internet, leverage it for good. I use it all day long. I'm sure you do too. I'm looking
Yes.
up things. I mean, you have to wade through, what's correct or what, but I'm constantly, what does this mean? Where is this? What's that about? And you wade through and decide whatever. And people aren't even doing that. They're not even,
Well,
using it for that. They're being lazy. I guess they're on TikTok all day. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I just, when I heard about this surrogacy, so many vulnerable women
mhm.
and girls, and that was the preferred for Americans who wanted a baby, who wanted a
Yes.
surrogate to go to these Ukraine, women in Ukraine. And I'm like, how? What? It's a form of human trafficking because a lot of them were very poor, very vulnerable.
Yes.
Okay. They weren't getting paid if they lost the baby, unfortunately, medical complications. They would go through all of this, not even make any money, and
Yes.
they were just cast aside because they're the throwaway women or
Of
the
course.
throwaway girls, which I hear that term a lot. And actually, the first time I heard throwaway kids, Manila, was in Washington, D.C. And I'll just leave no names or organizations. And I was told, no, we don't worry about them. They're throwaway kids. I'm like, what?
What does that even mean?
Well, and this is when I was like, I've learned a lot in the last few years. I'm like, no child's a throwaway. And they just looked at me. That was like the beginning of my education when I started in all of this, because of course,
Right.
Manila, I thought everybody would be like me, like, they'd wanna learn more, they'd wanna help, they'd wanna find
Like,
resources,
genuinely care.
they wanna protect their own children. All we ask is, like, you learn about things to protect your own children
Right.
and then spread out, protect your community, whether it's
Right.
other family members,
You
you
tell your
know
friends, you tell your
but
family.
that
Yes.
like, that's it, because here's the reality, you know this, I know this, we're not stopping human trafficking and sexual exploitation. It's not gonna happen it's not gonna happen, okay? You bring up the AI is the most frightening thing because they just take your child's face, put it on these, bodies. I
Yes.
just posted an article yesterday, it's out of the UK
So
actually.
creepy.
No, but they're like, "There are no laws.
Right.
There are no laws to protect." So I again ask in Washington and Manila, I'm like, well, we learned with the internet, the law lags behind technology, and we're still not getting anywhere. We knew the AI was coming. Like,
Yeah.
why didn't you step up? See, I can't understand because they don't want to.
No.
They
No, of
don't want
course not.
to.
Well, there's a lot
So
of money
that's it.
as you keep saying. There's just because Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, sure, he may publicly purport to be left-leaning, a liberal or whatever, and people might just assume, take that at face value. But they big huge companies like Facebook, they have methods to launder their money by donating to this pack, or having
Yes.
some shell company that's a shell company of a shell company that donates to a super PAC for, let's say, Mitt Romney, right? Because Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want his name tied directly to Mitt Romney. I mean, there's ways to do this, right? And then there's people that, that they play both sides of this, is because they want to ensure that the laws continue to lag behind the
Of
actual
course.
reality of what we are experiencing. I just recently read a story about a teenage girl who, I forget what state, but somewhere here on the East Coast, but that a girl in high school, that these boys used ChatGPT, used a picture of her online on social media, and told the AI to put her in pornographic images. So it used this little girl, teenage girl, maybe she's like 16 or 17, used this little girl's face and put her face in pornographic images. This girl is mortified. I don't know. I can't remember. It was a recent story. I don't know if she tried to commit suicide because
Right.
she's been mocked, and people are, it's all over the school. And when you're 16 or 17, you feel like that's the end of the world. That is your world. High school is your world. And after spending 2 or 3 years on lockdown, now you're
Yes.
ill-equipped to even process or deal with what you and I might remember at 16 or 17. I mean, I remember at my high school, just before I got there in the 90s, they just did away with the smoking section for the kids. So times have
Wow.
changed, right? Kids back then were able to process and deal with a lot grittier stuff. And I think this is where we go back to the original question that you asked me about helicopter parenting or tiger momming. This is where you have been overprotective, where your kid doesn't know how to process any of this. And the US government, I would say, is complicit in that when they locked everything down and they forced kids to be at home looking at an iPad for school 8 hours a day, these kids were unable to grow
Right.
up and socialize and understand how you process dealing with a bully, dealing with, a rejection from a girl or a boy or what have you, right? They didn't learn how to do that. And now they're 16, 17 years old, and then right off the heels of COVID, we have this AI explosion, this chat GPT explosion. Of course it's going to get exploited by these mean boys in high school, because that's what mean high school boys do. They're going to put your face in a pornographic image and text it to everybody in school. And what's Congress doing? This girl nearly killed herself. From what I recall in the article, she was unsuccessful, thankfully. But there are no laws to protect
No.
the victim.
No.
There are no laws to say you cannot do this, because it's not technically, it's not. I mean, we have laws on the books about sending underage pornographic images, but this is the fine line, right? With the AI, it's not technically a
Yes.
pornographic image of her.
That's
It's
it.
just her face.
That's exactly it.
That's the gray.
And you bring up a good thing. First of all, a lot of children have committed suicide. The media does not report on it, does not talk about it for issues like this. Um, we have a lot of teenage boys with the sextortion schemes going on, all coming out of foreign servers. Uh, we got to open it up. There's so many issues to talk about, Manila. Like, we can't be embarrassed about any of these issues anymore because it's happening. I
Right.
have a lot of parents say to me, well, if I bring it up, they'll look at porn. I said, forget it. They're looking at their friend's phone. Even if it's not on their phone, their friend at school is showing them. You might have been referring, there was a story recently. I did a newsletter on it not long ago. Westfield, New Jersey, not far from New York City. One girl, teenage girl, she was wondering why everybody was pointing at her. And a couple of days later, she was called into the principal's office, and a woman principal told her, oh, the boys took your image and created out of chat GPT, open chat, the kid just went online and did it. Like it's that easy to do.
Of
Okay.
course.
And then he shared it with all his friends. And that's why everybody was pointing at her and looking at her. And she and her mother made the rounds. They went on Fox, they went on CNN. So luckily the media did cover them a bit. Okay. They suspended the boy, but as we know, once an image is out there, it's on porn sites and all that.
Ugh.
Law enforcement said there's nothing we can really do about this. And they suspended him for like 2 days. And now when I try to find follow-up there's like no follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
And the principal, a woman, her reaction was, well, we think we took care of it because it was an image on Snapchat and it was deleted. So that means it's gone. So she doesn't even know. An educator, a principal, right, of a high school. Where has this woman been? Like, once an image is out there, it's out there.
Right.
Right. So again, it falls into that raising awareness, education. Do they want to accept this is happening? I'm very curious. I want to jump into, lately I'm a lot of little this white lung thing they're talking about with kids and panicking. And I don't know if this is true, Manila. I heard a little something from a source, but again, I don't know if it's true. They're going to now try to put all these mandates. They're going to go for the kids. They're going to try to forget the adults, because so many adults are fighting back and saying, I'll never get a vaccine again, a booster, whatever they're all saying.
Sure.
But now they're targeting behind the scenes. They're cooking up some schemes. I hear, again, I don't know if it's true. What do you think about all of this? Have you heard anything? Is it just flu season and they're calling it white lung now? What do you think?
So from what I'm hearing,
Isn't
again,
that racist, white lung?
I know. When the name
I just
popped
thought of
up.
that when I said it to you. What, or black lung, white lung?
Right. Well, there's black lung, right? Like the coal miners
Right,
back
right,
in West
exactly.
Virginia. That's black lung. This is white lung, I guess, because of the appearance of it in
Right,
X-ray, in chest X-rays. I guess
right.
is so. Okay, white lung, fine. Uh, but from my, and I'm no medical expert, obviously, I have opinions about stuff, and especially post COVID. But as far as this new white lung goes, it's my understanding that it's kind of a variation of walking pneumonia.
Right.
It's just like a mutation of pneumonia that's not so bad that you're just kind of walking around with it and don't realize it. I mean, when they tried to scare moms of, with kids my age, right? Last year with they couldn't they were unsuccessful getting parents to do less than 2% of uh kids under the age of 10 got the COVID vaccine. So then in 2022 they tried to get elementary school age kids to get now they have the RSV shot.
Right.
Right. So
I
now it's
know.
RSV. Okay. So now this year, 2023, I guess it's white lung. But again, don't we want to know first? I mean, we've gone through this exercise as parents 3 years ago. Don't we want to go through the exercise of, well, let's track down, okay, where did white lung come from? Is the rumor going to be another wet market, maybe a dry market? I don't know. Maybe it's from a lab. We don't know. Can we start there before you start, scaring Chuck Schumer into having everybody lock down and stay home and shut down the world again ahead of an election? I'm very suspect of that. Anytime, last year it was the midterm elections and they were like RSV. Oh my God,
I remember, but it didn't take off the way they
it did not take off.
were probably planning behind the scenes with those.
But now,
You know what, Manila? I don't, of course, I feel like certain people can do anything they want, or I don't think the American public will accept any kind of lockdown again.
no, I think we're over it.
I
Well,
don't.
look what it did to our kids, Lynn.
I
Look what it did
Listen,
to our
I think that
children.
this is only the beginning we're seeing now of what it has done to our future, teens and adults. The isolation, I deal with a lot of children, teenagers, because they've been vaping a lot, and marijuana, which we
Oh,
know is, not pure, and it's cut with fentanyl, it's cut with chemicals, it's cut,
oh my gosh.
but they're not just like smoking a joint, they're like vaping all day long. This is what I wish the media would report on a lot. And so many teens are having these psychotic breaks, especially boys, where they're 16, 17, 14, 15 even. And that's the rest of their lives, Manila. And then they're being put on these
Wow.
heavy antipsychotic drugs. Okay. I know a lot of cases right now. I'm dealing with one in particular right now. The parents, excellent parents, all good people. It has nothing to do. Any of this can affect any kind of family,
Sure.
And 18 years old. What is the future for him? This started a few
He had a
years ago.
psychotic break from
A lot of them have psychotic breaks, and all we work with a lot of healthcare across the country, and they will
Oh,
report
wow.
in the emergency rooms. Well, look, the report is children showing up who have tried to commit suicide, 40% are 11 and under.
My God.
Now, how does
Oh,
an
wow.
11, because they see things, because I'm always like, well, how did they learn about suicide?
Right.
Because they see things online, or they've been on a TikTok challenge and they're trying to hang themselves in a closet. I mean, these are the realities. I'm going to say trigger, a word I don't even like, because we have to talk about the realities of what's happening. So we can't hide anything. We have to like open and honestly, I say that a lot, just
Yes.
talk and educate. I think it's our jobs to like do it for those who don't have a voice or are scared or something like that. Um, I do. There's so much to talk to you about there. I want to ask you something. So as far as the white lung, we'll just put that aside right now. We'll just leave that. We're not going to mask up again. We're not going to
No, we're not
get
gonna
white
do that.
lung boosters and vaccines. That'll
Trade
be
our white lung for black lung and maybe pink lung. Well, pink is good, isn't it? So
pink lung. But here's the good news, because we always have to look for a little bit of a silver lining. More people are awake. More people are
yes.
questioning. More people are seeking out. I'm going to hang on that one, and I'll tell you why. I do not like crowds. Of course, I live in New York City, a crowded city. Okay, but I am thrilled, Manila, because I live near the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree.
Oh,
Okay,
wonderful.
there's nothing like Christmas,
Of
in New York
course.
City. Of course, I'm probably biased, but that's my opinion. I am so thrilled this year. I was just passing it again yesterday. The streets are packed, and to see it packed several weeks before Christmas, I know it's right around the corner, but a
Wow.
Monday, and of course, I'm like, I wonder what all these people do for a living. Why are all these children? Maybe they're being homeschooled. Why are they out on a Monday? Because that's how my mind works. But packed, like I love crowds now. They're shopping, they're happy, they're
Wow.
eating pizza together. Like I take in like focus groups. That's how my mind works. There's the American Girl Shop. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Right there by the tree.
Yep.
It is like, I don't know what, a highway. They're going in, they're pushing strollers, they're coming out with shopping bags full of dolls. And
Oh, wow.
I know you saw it because I think you commented on it. I had posted something last week, maybe like there's a return. A recent study is showing dump trucks, Tonka toys, like Hot Wheels.
That's
Uh,
my world right now.
no,
So
but like Legos.
that's my
There's a
world.
big return this holiday season for buying board games and puzzles.
Mhm.
So I actually think, despite everything we talk about, the pendulum is slightly swinging back. Now that's the public, right?
Yes.
And that gives me a lot of hope. I love seeing the crowds. I love hearing people are buying board games and puzzles. Um, that just gives me hope. I got to stick with that because when I go to the other side and think about, "Mm, can't can't deal with that." I want to ask you, I know you went to Disneyland,
The original.
the original. Give me your impression. I'm just going to leave it at that. What happened? How did you end up there? Did you have a good time?
Well,
But what did you see there?
okay, so, uh, as I mentioned before, Los Angeles, Southern California
Right.
is my home. That's where I'm from. Most of my family's still there. And so with my son being 5 years old now, can you believe it?
No.
Um, he's he's old enough to remember things. And I thought, okay, this is kind of like a rite of passage. I don't love modern day Disney. It's just not the Disney of, that I grew up on in the 80s. It's quite different. Especially with the two Bobs, Iger, and I forget the other guy coming back and forth and trying to really over politicize what should be something fun and wondrous for children. So I had my hesitation about taking my son, especially now because he is old enough to see and remember things in his brain. And I thought, okay, well, we just got to go because it's a rite of passage. It's just, this is what, I did as a kid. So I would love for him to do it too. And
Right.
let's see how different Disneyland is, because there was controversy. I can't remember. It might have been Disney World, where uh one of the Disney princesses was
Disney
a
World, right?
man.
I think it was the whole Ron DeSantis, Florida, Disney
I think that might have been
World
it.
thing, you
That
know?
yeah, that parents were outraged because there was a bearded man in a Cinderella dress,
Yes.
um, which, so I knew, and again, because I work in news, that my 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 antenna was up, and so I was looking around, and it's not because I have my son, living under a rock. I mean, he's aware. I mean, he's seen images. I mean, controlled, of course. And I thought, okay, I wonder if we'll see this at original Disneyland. I wonder if Orange County, which is a very conservative county for the most part,
Mhm.
very family friendly. Irvine has been ranked over and over a million times like the best city to live in for safety, education, all of that, and that's neighboring Anaheim. So I thought, okay, we're gonna go, and it was as charming and cute and beautiful as I remember. And I did notice one big change though, Lynn, was as soon as you get in the tram to go from the vast parking garage to get to the front gates, that they no longer say, as part of the script anywhere in Disneyland, they no longer say, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. They
Mhm.
say, welcome, friends.
Mhm.
So that classic, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the stage, Mickey Mouse. They don't do that anymore. They say, hello, friends. So they went gender neutral with that, but that was as much as I noticed. I didn't see, there can be girl pirates, right? There, and that's fine. There was nothing that made me
Right.
turn my head and go, "Oh, you are trying to jam politics down my 5-year-old's throat." So I didn't see anything like that. I was expecting it, did not see it, surprisingly. And so I was happy about that. So maybe this was like a Florida problem.
I think
I
it was more. I think, but that's a whole nother program.
Yeah,
Like, I'm a great believer, Manila. This is just me. Ron DeSantis, just leave Disney World alone in Florida. He brought so much attention. It just,
right,
you know, made it worse. But that's how I
right.
think. Like, if you ignore things, they will go away.
Yes, I think
Uh,
so too.
So,
He
like,
breathed life into it.
right? So it's like, just let it go. As far as Hello Friends, yeah, they announced that they were changing. They were no longer, there was some press
Yeah.
announcement. Okay, whatever.
Okay,
I
fine.
I maintain, I was thinking you'll probably answer that question that way, like, how was it and all that, because even though New York, we hear horror story after horror story, and there's a lot happening in New York City, right now, New York State as well, but when I'm out on the streets, Manila, it's like people going about their business.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see, yeah,
We
I
we
do,
went we went
it's
in the
like,
middle of the week, and it was crowded, and it was October. It was just ahead of Halloween, and
and
it
it
was
was,
great to see humans back out and
yeah.
not being weird, very few masks. People were learning to smile again. People were reorienting to, personal space.
Can you imagine? No, it is, you know, that reminds me, a few years ago at the Tree at Rockefeller Center, they created circles that were 6 feet apart. They painted these big circles, and
Oh my god.
it was like, one person at a time in the circle. It was the stupidest thing. Of course, we just bust it right through there, like, they're not gonna, but anyway, but that's all gone, because I remember thinking, I love these crowds, even though I hate crowds, all
Yes,
over
me
the
too.
place, to see children's faces, like families, like happy grandparents, groups of
Yes.
teenagers even, like, wanna see a Christmas tree. Even the
Yeah.
Christmas show, Manila, they had Cher on the Christmas tree lighting. They had Barry Manilow. See, this is part of my thinking.
Wow.
The pendulum is swinging back. And I heard it was one of the most watched, again, we don't know, because we don't know what we read is true, one of the
Right.
most watched Christmas lightings. They had that. They had, Darlene Love, I worked with her in the show Hairspray, 84 years old, singing, so Barry Manilow's like 80, Cher's 70s, and I'm
Wow.
thinking this is what the public wants.
It's a return to the classics and that are family friendly. And I could tell you, I may have spoken to Santa Claus, and Santa Claus has gotten my son more of the classics like Lego and
Good.
spaceships and Tonka for Christmas. So we're I think it's kids are starting to, and especially because my guy's only 5, I think in that generation, the alpha generation,
Right.
I think it's gonna be a return to the classics,
I do so.
to a simpler time where, because the internet will be old hat for them, right?
They're bored. You even posted something recently. I saw it on your slanted media about TikTokers or something, and millennials, and
Yes,
they're getting
they're
bored.
bored.
So this goes in with part of the, like, the swipe generation. When they're bored, they move on to something else. How can we get them?
Dating has even changed. Dating, people are going back to the old school
Oh,
of,
really?
"Hey, do you know somebody that, you could set me up with?" People are getting arranged again on blind dates.
So
That's a
I love
resurgence.
that. I
I love
I
it.
I love that. I just get women my age. Is there anybody like your husband that you I'm like, and then I'll be like, no, there's only one like my husband.
There's only
Like,
one like
and
your
then I'm
husband.
like, I'm sorry, but do you know anybody that's like your, I'm sorry. So I always feel a little guilty because
Yes,
he's such an angel, but we'll leave that one for a while. Let's finish up, Manila. I want to get into a little bit. You're a young mom, you're a journalist, you're out there, you're in Washington. I'm very disappointed in women. Now, I've really come to this conclusion as I'm facing my 63rd birthday next month, that I was on the tail end of that women's movement. I was like, I don't know, maybe 7th grade or something when they were burning the bras. When no, they were, every kind of woman was marching, because I remember this, watching that whenever it was at dinner time, we had the Walter Cronkite news on. Okay.
sure,
They were marching on Fifth Avenue, every color, every religion, women's equal rights, women in the employment, which we're still not
sure.
getting equal pay to men, which I can't figure that one out in, going into 2024. I recently, I mean, it's been there lately, but why aren't they stepping up more, whether it's for the children, whether it's for the equal pay? I feel like it's all, again, bipartisan. This doesn't belong. This is about women. I'm disappointed. Whether, and I don't want to get like even too political, talk about Israel and Palestine right now and all that horror going on
Mhm.
across the board. We're hearing about rape videos, rape in general in New York. Like, where are the women? I don't see them, Manila. Like, this is unacceptable. We're going to stand up. We have the child marriage problem in the United States. We're up to 10 states now that you have to be 18 or older to get married. Okay. California has no floor. So technically, a
I never
brand
knew
new,
that.
yeah, technically a mother or a father could take a brand new baby and marry it to a 50-year-old man. Yeah, you got to investigate this. This is good for you to learn about. And
Oh
that is a
god.
form, this is how they're getting around human trafficking when somebody wants to buy a baby for their own, not just to adopt it, for all those other horrible
Right.
things.
Oh
So
my
we
god.
fight very hard about ending child marriage here in the United States. So what, give us some thoughts about women.
Wow.
I'm curious because we as women have to step up and do better.
Well, I agree. First, I'm still trying to digest. I did not know that about
I'll
California, my
send you
home state.
information. Your home state. I'm going to
I'm
send you information.
shocked. You would think they would be at the forefront of all of this, the
Mhm.
the vanguard of all that's hip and cool and whatever. Or could be New York City. We can fight about that, but of course. But as far as where the women are, well, Lynn, the women in the 70s burning the bras didn't have TikTok, didn't have, filters. They're all that's where all the women are. I mean, honestly, I hate to say it, but again, I'm going to go back to saying my son's generation, the alpha generation, will be the first of the modern generation born into the internet, native to technology like this, native to AI. All this stuff is going to be old hat, and they're going to be back out in the real world, in the actual physical world, because the internet will be old hat. This generation of millennials and Zoomers, they're all, I hate to say it, but I mean, they might show up to a protest here and there, but generally speaking, in terms of speaking up for ourselves and our own gender, I think they're having a hard time processing um, what it means to be a modern woman. That, the whole birth rate decline, where they've convinced young women of the Zoomer age, and I know many of them, the Gen Z people, that are convinced that they don't want children because they're more driven by their career, or they want to live, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but they want to live a life of excess and travel and have a lot of partners, and some, and fine, if that floats your boat, great. But once you've been there, done that, and it becomes old hat, you realize how vapid and what a void it creates in deep in your soul.
Mhm.
But they don't know that yet. A lot of young women and doctors, I can't believe, are doing it, but giving young women under 30, healthy young women, hysterectomies, because you're seeing on social media these videos of women living these fantastic, lap of luxury lives with no children, and I'm on a yacht, and now I'm eating, this pizza in Sicily now. And these younger women are enamored by that, and I feel like social media has kind of stolen the family and stolen
Yes.
the uterus from women, and convinced women that that's how you empower yourself in being a woman, is by rejecting the very thing that nature made your body able to do. That's the defining thing that create
Mhm.
that, the way you've been created. That's the defining element, is that you are able to bear life. But now they've told us for generations that we're just like the boys. We can do it just like the boys, even though they're not going to pay us the same. But we're just like the boys. We should just keep working like the boys. You don't need time off to have a baby. A baby is a drag. Be just like the boys. The boys don't take time off. Be just like one of the guys. Be as promiscuous as the guys, because it's okay now. And be as, and for that's why I think we're seeing depression rates in Gen Z women. I mean, so they're busy processing their own internal
Right.
stuff, Lynn, and I think that's why we're not seeing the actual movement like you saw in the 60s and 70s across America, where women had a good grasp of what it meant to be a woman, and that it was a proud thing to be a wife, a mother, and all of these other things. We've kind of shamed that out of women through multiple decades, that you should just be like one of the boys, and then we've diluted the term woman. What is a woman anymore? You and I don't exist, Lynn, because anybody can just say that they're a woman now, and that we have to acknowledge that. So first of all, we've disempowered the term woman. So what is there to stand up for? What is there to stand up for if you and I don't even exist? If our struggles as a woman are the your first menstrual cycle, the first menstruation, if none of that matters, if that doesn't define what a woman is, and anybody can be a woman if they want to be a woman, and it's all interchangeable, why fight?
Yeah, that whole thing is another that's another program that the boys can have babies now or whatever, or they have tampons in the boys'
Boys
room.
locker room.
Well, no, but in high schools and middle schools. Now listen to this one, Manila, because this is fact in Jersey. But a lot they have them in the boys' rooms,
Mhm.
tampons, sanitary napkins. The girls' rooms they don't put them. These are public schools. How crazy is this? And when parents go, bring it up, say this is unacceptable, or the boys, seventh grade boys take tampons and they're running around like throwing them at girls. And like
Sticking
this,
him in their soda, I
yeah,
imagine,
no,
and
but this is
slinging them.
like such an agenda. That's a whole nother program. And also a lot of young people tell me, a lot of young women, I don't want to bring a baby into this world. Look what a mess it
Yes.
is. So
Yes.
that's part of your whole thing with they don't even have anything to grasp on. I do want to mention though, it occurred to me this morning, so Rosalind Carter recently died, and also Sandra Day O'Connor,
Mhm.
first woman on the Supreme Court. In my opinion, Manila, I don't think I think more of a fuss should have been made about them, actually. I don't think I didn't see it, whether it was online, whether you agree with Rosalind Carter, whatever, like she really turned down a lot of money for different things and lived her simple life after the White House.
Mhm.
A lot of Habitat for Humanity, which the
Mhm.
Warriors has worked with, really did some very good things behind the scenes, not glamorous or anything, but I don't think, I know she had that funeral and all that. I didn't see women online talking about her a lot, a little bit here and there. Sandra Day O'Connor, I saw next to nothing. Not that
Right.
I was spending time researching, but I thought, wow, no matter what you think, like first woman Supreme Court, I don't see it. And then all the attention's put on, I don't know. I think that little boy who went to the game and painted his face like the
Right.
Indian, like everything I see is that. I know you have to go soon and I'm over keeping you, but because I love you so much and you're fascinating, I love talking to you.
Ditto, ditto.
Finish, and we will continue. We'll do this again, but finish up with what do you want to leave us with? It's the holiday season. What do you want people to know? What's top of your mind that you think people should be aware of? The floor is yours. Go for
Oh
it.
gosh. Um, I think for this year, for 2023, as we go into election year 2024, I think what I'd like to leave the listeners and viewers with is that, going back to that, the V word, and not for the women, uh I mean vigilance. Be vigilant
I
with
was
your
hoping you meant that word, not
vigilant, and it's a
vigilant.
voting year, and I think it's very suspect that we saw this happen in 2020, and the lockdowns came, and the trauma that was imposed on our children, the predators that came through online because the kids were forced onto the internet all day. Be vigilant. Don't let the government do this to you again. Don't let, Kids need to be outside. Kids need physical contact with sun, with nature, with grass, with snow. They need to be throwing snowballs at each other, or kicking dirt in each other's eyes, or even licking the slide. It's fine. Do it. That Kids need
Yes,
that.
yes.
And I think going into that with, keep in mind that it's an election year, and I think we're starting to see a pattern that there's always some kind of health scare that's going to pop up every presidential election cycle. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that's what the viewers should be vigilant of. And that, because, of course, people might forego a vaccine for themselves, or they might this or that or whatever for themselves, or go take it for themselves as an adult. But when you start messing with the kids,
Mhm.
if you scare parents sufficiently about whatever, parents are going to try to be the best parent that they
Yes.
can. So if you scare them with white lung, black lung, purple lung, glitter lung, well, this might do it. And maybe, it's going to, you're going to contract it. You can't go to the polls. You got to do your mail-in ballot, because you don't want to give little junior their purple lung. So be vigilant of
Vigilance.
that.
Vigilance, research. Listen to Manila Chan. Manila, I got to have you back because I also want to get your thoughts on this upcoming election. We've got to talk.
Always. Oh my gosh.
We've got to talk about that whole thing. I'm very curious what you're thinking, how your mind is, what we should be looking out for,
Ticking,
and
ticking, ticking.
exactly. Look, I want to thank you, Manila Chan, for
Thank you.
joining me today on the Warriors, taking all this time. I know how busy you are. Rumble. Let's get everybody to go to your Rumble, Manila
Yeah.
channel.
Manila
Everybody should
channel.
go there. That's it. Twitter,
Perfect.
Manila Chan. Everybody can go there too if they want. But let's go to Rumble. Let's build the platform. Let's help you. Manila, I want to say thank you for being the way you are. I really mean that from the bottom of my heart, and for sharing such wonderful simple to digest, like what your young parent, like should be doing with their
You're too
children.
kind with the young parent thing, but I'll take
No,
it.
no, you are, because I can talk to them blue in the face, but again, my kids are like in the 30s. I'm not living what's going on. I didn't have to deal with all this when they were little. Okay, you're living and have to deal
But
with
see,
this.
also, we should note, you see, you are still young and you have grown children is because you started much younger than me, because I was among, I'm the last of Gen X, or I'm that bridge generation, right, of millennial. I'm 43, right? So I'm in that, I'm the last of the Jimmy Carter era babies, I should say. So there you go. So a part of me held off having children because I thought, well, yeah, I want to be a career woman. And that means putting off marriage, putting off kids, putting off, I don't want those things. That's, like that's the patriarchy telling me I should be a wife and I should be a mother. But I had I had to reconcile having that feeling on the inside and that it
Right.
wasn't the patriarchy bearing down on me. So I mean, I was almost 40 by the time I had my one and only, my last good egg. He's a good egg. Um, so that was,
What are you don't have any more good eggs?
I
Yeah.
don't think so.
I
I think that was my last good egg. So he's a good egg. I'm happy with the one good egg there. Yeah. So
No, you should
that's it.
okay, that but that's society what they did. There's a lot of women your age. It's like the career. And again, you can be one of the boys. You brought that up before and go for it and don't
Mhm.
get, weighted down with kids and this and
That's
that.
right.
I'm just going to say, and this is my opinion, because now that like I'm getting older, I really think like about so many things, or I can see clearly 30, 40, even 50 years ago, I can go back and think about things like I think one of the most important and hardest jobs in the world is being married, is being a mom, is running a
Yes.
home.
Yes.
And I think women, men, whoever's doing it, they should be very proud
Yes.
and really a pat on the back because I think it is much harder, with children and everything that goes into it. And we should be proud of those things.
Agreed.
So I'm proud you're carrying the ball and I'm proud to know you. And
Likewise.
I just want to thank you again because I love sharing your voice because it's so sound and just so knowledgeable. And I think a lot of other women in particular just need to hear from, other women. Here's what to do. Here's a pat on the shoulder, read about this, maybe try this. Watch your, child online. I think that really resonates. So I want to thank you. I want to wish you and your beautiful family a wonderful holiday season.
Thank
And I
you.
hope you come
Likewise.
back soon and talk to me because I want to get in. I want to rip apart this election a little bit. I don't know if you want to go there and what it means for women. Again, I'm like all stuck on the woman thing lately. Like, what is this going to mean for us going forward for our women? I
Oh,
want to know because
I've got
I'm
opinions.
not hearing a lot. You know what I
I've
mean?
got opinions. I've got
I
opinions,
know
Lynn.
you do. So we love you. Thank you, Manila Chan. We will talk again soon. Happy
Thank
holidays.
you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, everybody.
Bye bye. Thank you, Manila.
Bye-bye.